This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Greetings, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, ladies and gents. Welcome to another wonderful, infotaining, edutaining edition of The Artivist Thinks. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, The Artivist. This is actually going to be a movie review. I'm going to tell you my thoughts and opinions and all that stuff about the movie known as Queen and Slim. I saw Queen and Slim the day after what is known as Thanksgiving. Every day is a day for Thanksgiving. Just want to share my thoughts. I have checked out other people's opinions and reviews on the movie, but I want to offer you another angle, a look at the movie. Please support the We All Be Info movement, because knowledge is the currency of the universe. Cash App is R2C2H2. Google Pay, PayPal, R2C2H2 @gmail.com. Buy Artivist gear and art, R2C2H2.com. Also, go to our Teespring website. Is probably a shelf below this video description. You can access some of our latest designs. You can wear Artivist art. But let's get on with the gear on, all right? I went to see Queen and Slim. And I tell you this, my first impressions of Queen and Slim is that Queen and Slim is this generation's Set It Off, Thelma and Louise, and Love Jones. Once again, Queen and Slim represents this generation. Love Jones, Set It Off, Thelma and Louise. That's how I felt about it after my first thoughts about it after seeing the movie. And also, I thought it was interesting because I look at all films as propaganda. All media is propaganda. I think people got to understand that, because I know with the Harriet thing, people were upset that it may not have been historically accurate, but it's propaganda. All film, all media is propaganda. The late, great Malcolm X told us one of the greatest things that Malcolm ever did for the people was with the following quote. He said that the media is the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and controls the minds of the masses. Once again, what Brother Malcolm said, he said media is the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and controls the minds of the masses. So when I saw this film, I'm thinking about it in that context, but also I got to enjoy what I look at. I'm an artist. I'm a creator. You see the works I manifested behind me. I love art. I love music. I love visual art. I love reading works of art. So I keep that in mind, what Brother Malcolm said, but also I like to be distracted like everybody else. I like to be able to escape like everybody else down a rabbit hole every now and then. With that said, Queen and Slim, to me, is a Black Lives Matter psyops. It is a Black Lives Matter psyops. It was written by the sister Lena Waithe, and Lena Waithe is very talented. I give her props for props to do. I have thoroughly enjoyed the creative output and works of Lena Waithe. I like her work on Master of None. That Thanksgiving episode was powerful, interesting, unique. Also, her work with The Chi on Showtime, and anything with her connected to it tends to be of a certain quality that I respect. I respect her as a fellow creative. I respect the fact that she tried to empower in her own way Black people by giving them opportunities in her vision to manifest their own realities and potential. So shout out to Lena Waithe on that. Matter of fact, this movie was directed by a sister named, let me see, I mean, make sure I got the names written down right. Melina Matsoukas, who also directed things in the music video genre and also shows for Insecure, the very popular HBO show Insecure. Insecure. Okay. But with that said, okay, cool. So I saw the film. What was interesting to me is the ending and the beginning. The beginning and ending in terms of the audience response and reactions and interactions with the film. Now, what's unique was the fact that it opened up in a diner, right? A dating scene with the stars, Daniel Kaluuya, who is Slim, and the sister Jodie Turner-Smith, who is Queen. A beautiful sister, beautiful brown, dark brown skinned sister. She had my attention. But it was interesting with the audience responses. I know people talked about the audience responses towards the end of the movie, but I'm in Memphis, so I had a unique experience. I went late at night to the movie theater to see it on Friday night. It was funny because the dating scene, it was a cat in the audience that actually got up and said, "This is gonna be our last damn date. I'm breaking up with you right now. Getting the hell out of here." Or some dude said some stuff like that. His brother with some dreads walking down the aisle. At the beginning of the film, the movie starts as a date, and there's a cat breaking up with his girlfriend or whatever during the dating scene of the movie. That's the audience, and everybody was just clowning and tripping off of that, right? So getting to the movie, thought that was interesting. Then, it led to the confrontation with the police. But my thing is, the movie missed out on some interesting things they could have capitalized on. Now, I was very concerned that they was going to feminize the male lead, Dan Kaluuya, who played in the Black Panther, who was leading the Get Out. I mean, he's going to play Fred Hampton, Chairman Fred Hampton, in the first feature film about Chairman Fred Hampton. He's slated to play him. He's a black Brit. Have no problem with black British actors or anybody who's non-ADOS or American descendant of slaves getting roles. It's a movie, it's acting, it's make-believe, right? For the most part, it's basically make-believe. But I was concerned from the get-go. Really, Queen seemed like the stereotypical strong or strong black woman. Don't need a man, Miss Independent. Doesn't need a man for a magic stick every now and then. Cause I believe they met through Tinder, and she finally accepted his, invite to go out on a date. And I believe he's a brother that worked at Costco's, if I'm not mistaken. So she's a lawyer. Her client just lost his bid to save his life. I think her client was on death row. Whether he was wrongfully accused or not, like a Rodney Reed, Troy Davis situation. So she loses her client case. His life has been forfeited, and she's not in a good mood. And basically, she's a loner. So she goes out on a Tinder date. Tinder love. Okay. She go out on a date with this cat, I guess, to get her mind off her a situation with her career and the fact that she could not help save the life of her client. And I'm going to bring that up again because I think it's interesting. I think it's a missed point. So, get into it with the cop, got pulled over. The cop shoot at Queen. Slim trying to protect Queen and his life, seeing his life is in danger, shoots at the cop in self-defense. Is caught on the dashboard camera of the police car, the whole situation, right? So here's my thing. They escape Ohio, go to New Orleans, go through, the South, Alabama, Georgia, get to Florida, and, I don't want to give away the movie, but it says like the Black Bunny and Clyde, and we all know what happened to Bunny and Clyde. They got ambushed by the authorities, right? They got basically just massacred in their car down in Louisiana back in the 30s, right? So we all know how they ended. So this movie would be like the Black Bunny and Clyde type of vibe. You already know that they ain't going to make it to Cuba, right? Oh, spoiler alert. Oh, my bad. They're not going to make it to Cuba, right? Bunny and Clyde was betrayed by their associates. So, just the Judas factor coming in. So they're going to be betrayed, right? They're not going to make it to Cuba. But here's the thing. They could have told a story. My thing was people response at the end. A lot of people were upset. A lot of folks left the theater before the movie actually ended. When they saw what happened to Queen and Slim. And really, you look at the photographs, how they took Queen and Slim photographs, you could tell they were doomed like Romeo and Juliet. Like you look at the posters, you look at something like it's a scene where a young kid is like Chris Rock, like Pookie from from New Jack City, dude like Pookie from New Jack City, like he was like Chris Rock's love child from New Jack City, the guy who took the picture, little kid, teenager. You can tell like she's looking at Slim, and Slim's looking at the camera, but she's looking at Slim like an angel, like she's perched on sitting on top of the car. You already know they were fated to die, like Romeo and Juliet and like Bonnie and Clyde. And my thing is that in the movie, Slim talking about Queen being his legacy. Now that's interesting because, you think about the reason why we know about men like, let's say like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on December 8th would mark the 20th anniversary of the U.S. government being found guilty of killing King in a civil court trial in Memphis, Tennessee, December 8th, 1999. That was 20 years ago. On December 8th, U.S. government was found guilty of killing Dr. King. The reason why we know and we respect and we admire, and Dr. King is such an icon, is because of the legacy they had in Sister Dr. whatever you want to call her, Coretta Scott King is the reason why we are familiar with Dr. King at all. Y'all don't understand. It was Coretta Scott King who really pushed for the King Center to be a reality down in Atlanta. It was Coretta Scott King who spearheaded the movement to make Dr. King's birthday a national holiday, a federal holiday. That was his legacy. Kind of like Osiris was resurrected by his wife, Isis. Not the terrorist organization created by the CIA, ISIS. The CIS. The ISIS. A lot of y'all ain't gonna get that. But Dr. King was resurrected through his wife, Coretta. When people in this inner circle told her to stand down, I'm talking about people like Jesse Jackson, other folks said, Coretta, just leave it alone. Let your husband rest in peace. He said, no, his death will not be in vain. I'm going to resurrect his memory. So that's correct. Even with Betty Shabazz, Dr. Betty Shabazz, who was the wife of Malcolm X, she was a torchbearer and a keeper of her husband's legacy. Make sure that his death was not in vain. You think about Sister Myrlie Evers, who is the widow of the late, great Medgar Evers. One of the reasons why we know about Medgar Evers is because of her pursuit of justice to bring his killer or killers to justice. And she was a keeper of her husband's flame. She made sure that people didn't forget the sacrifices that this World War II veteran made for the liberation of his people. So, yes, the women are the legacies of great men. Even if you look at Frederick Douglass, Frederick Douglass was married to a black woman who gave him his kids, his living legacies. Then he was married to a white woman towards the end of his life who was almost the same age as his daughter. But here's the thing, both women contributed to Frederick Douglass's legacy. His white wife, you look at pictures of how she looked at him. She adored Frederick. She worshiped him, it seems. She made sure that it was a foundation set up in his honor, though, so that we won't forget Frederick Douglass. If you ever go to D.C. in the Anacostia area, you should visit the Frederick Douglass houses on this big hill. A lot of that was her doing to secure his legacy, but also his first wife, the woman who gave him his kids, helped secure his freedom. There was a black woman that helped free Frederick Douglass, his first wife. So, yes, it speaks about legacy, the film. I thought that was great. I think a lot of people don't get that. I think the sad thing that a lot of us are not students of history. So when you look at these movies, you want these movies to tell you about your history, but it's not meant to tell you history. It's meant to promote ideas. It's propaganda. It's meant to promote and develop a certain mindset. So I like that part of the film about legacy. But here's the thing. The way the film ended and how people felt, it's like it's putting in your mind. It's propaganda. It's putting in your mind that black folks, no matter what we do, we could never overcome this system of white inferiority. Once again, it's putting us in that mindset, no matter how we fight, we can never win. And that's not true. That's not true. I'm going to get into that, but also another highlight of the film was Uncle Earl, played by Bokeem Woodbine. Bokeem Woodbine is one of my favorite actors. He is so underrated. I love the man's acting since he played in the HBO movie called Strap back in the early 90s with the brother from Onyx. Slam! Da-da-da. Fredro Starr, I believe, from Onyx. Slam! Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Let the boys be boys. Y'all remember that? Slam! You know, it's Onyx, man. 90s hip-hop is amazing. But Bokeem Woodbine is a great actor, a great character actor. A lot of movies that he in, I always enjoyed. I mean, like, I like the movie, the music video he did with Tupac, I Ain't Mad at You, the very prophetic and eerie music video where Tupac saved his life. Kind of died like the way he died in Vegas. It's great. Bokeem Woodbine did a great job as comic relief. I wish they did more with Uncle Earl. Matter of fact, Uncle Earl was Queen's uncle in New Orleans who killed her mom, his sister, in a domestic violence situation, domestic dispute that got out of hand. I don't think he really tried to kill his sister, but she, you know. Anyway, Queen defended him in court and got him off. And he was a Iraqi war veteran, so he was dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder as well, PTSD. So he was a veteran who killed his sister in a domestic dispute, and his niece defended him in court and got him freed. So he owed her something, and she loved her uncle. She trusted her uncle because that one of the first places they went was, and they got out of Ohio. They went to New Orleans, connect with her Uncle Earl, and Uncle Earl, guess, was a polygamist. Or he had a harem. It's very fascinating. Y'all should check it out. Like I said, the movie, I would suggest to everybody, go see the movie for yourself at least one time. I would, suggest that you see it one time. So Uncle Earl was an interesting character, but New Orleans is an interesting place for black resistance to police brutality from a historical perspective. See, I'm a guy, I love history, right? I guess I'm a public historian. I didn't go to school for history. I just always had a desire and passion to learn more about people and what inspired people to do certain things and about a lot of stuff. Like I grew up with the elders. I was a guy that used to listen to the old folks talking about. That's why I knew about Emmett Till before I left elementary. I knew about a lot of things. They didn't teach this in school. Fort Pillow Massacre. I learned all about this in my grandma's World Book Black History Encyclopedia from the 70s. I used to just sit in her living room and open up that big old book and just read about this stuff on my own. I mean, when I was in elementary, I used to check out biographies on presidents and stuff like that, and war heroes and things like that. And even when I was a kid coming up in Memphis, when I was like 11, 12 years old, I used to volunteer as a tour guide with my mom at the National Civil Rights Museum when it first opened. I actually was friends with the late, great co-founder of the Civil Rights Museum, who was a civil rights legend named Judge Army Bailey. His birthday was on November 29th. Lost him about 4 years ago to cancer. But New Orleans has always been a place for black resistance and black power. I give you 3 examples, right? The New Orleans riots of 1900, the Robert Charles riots, right? Robert Charles was a black man from Mississippi who was a Pan-Africanist, a black nationalist who believed that black folks should go back to Africa, in particular to Liberia, because you can't get no justice in America. And he got into a shootout with police that started July 23rd, 1900, waiting on the porch or steps for his girlfriend to come out her home. And 2 police officers confronted him and his roommate. And he, they got into it. They went for their gun. He went for his gun. He shot him. He won, right? So for several days, New Orleans, from July 23rd to July 27, 1900, there was a big race massacre, race riot, where white folks was in gangs going around beating up, killing black folks. They didn't care who was involved, who wasn't involved. Robert Charles ended up shooting and wounding 20-plus people. I believe he killed about 4 police officers. I want to say, let me get my notes. He killed 7 people, including 4 police officers, and wounded 20-plus people. He was finally killed in a standoff in Black New Orleans, right? He was killed in a standoff. He was snitched out. Somebody snitched out on him. This dude named, should I get his name right? Fred Clark snitched on him. This black dude told the white folks where he was hiding at. So he was shooting out with them. Towards the end, a mob of white people came to the house where he was hiding at. He was on the second floor, shooting out the white people, killed some more cops. Then was a medical student, a white dude, a young white dude who was deputized. Shot him. Then they shot his body full of bullets. They riddled his body with bullets. They mutilated his body, everything. So he's actually buried in Holt Cemetery, or was left of him. What was left of him was buried in Holt Cemetery. That's the same cemetery where jazz great, the first jazz king, Buddy Bolden, is buried in New Orleans. So actually, Robert Charles was a black folk hero. Black folks loved Robert Charles, even though he was snitched out. He was snitched upon by a black person. It was another black dude that avenged his death. This guy named Louis Forstall. He killed Fred Clark for snitching on Robert Charles. This is back in 1900, y'all. This happened, but Robert Charles was a folk hero. He's the black hero of New Orleans. You know, even Ida B. Wells sung his praises. She wrote about what happened to Robert Charles and what he did to defend himself and the honor of black people in New Orleans. He was so popular that there was a folk song that was created called The Ballad of Robert Charles. And now, Jelly Morton, the great jazz pianist and composer Jelly Morton from New Orleans, he talked about this song in his recordings for the Library of Congress back in 1938. You can access the recordings online. And he talked about Robert Charles, how it pissed off the white patrons so much that they forgot, the black musicians forgot the lyrics to the song. They forgot how to play Robert Charles because white folks were so enraged about this black man had the audacity to stand up for himself, to fight to the death, to defend himself and the honor of black people. So it's a great book called Carnival of Fury, written by this LSU professor who's passed away, William Ivy Hare. Y'all should check out the Carnival of Fury about the Robert Charles riots of 1900 in New Orleans. And also Ida B. Wells, you can access her stuff, I think at the Gutenberg Project, you know, the Red Record. She wrote about the New Orleans riots. So that's a primary source, so to speak, because she was covering, because Ida B. Wells was one of the pioneers of what is known as investigative journalism in this country. And she started her career in Memphis. And Memphis is a very powerful place. People get upset when I talk about Memphis, but it is what it is. You know, I just know stuff that you may not know, and you can research. So with that said, that happened in New Orleans, right? The Robert Charles riots, right? Y'all should look that up. I actually did a video some years ago about the Robert Charles riots, right? Also, Mark Essex from Emporia, Kansas. I also want to talk about the situation with Mark Essex from Emporia, Kansas, a Black Panther and Navy veteran who back in December 31st, 1972, as well as January 7, 1973, got into shootouts with the police down in New Orleans. Now, this is fascinating. This guy was shooting back. The same thing with, I would say, with Robert Charles. One of the things that set out Robert Charles was a lynching of a black man named Sam Hose in Georgia back in 1899. Look at the Sam Hose lynching, where he killed his boss in self-defense, his white boss. I think his white boss was trying to cheat him out some money, and the white boss didn't want to pay him correctly. And so the white boss tried to kill Sam Hose, and Sam Hose killed his white boss in self-defense. But I think the white boss' wife lied like he tried to rape her, or he raped her. So he was mutilated for thousands of white folks' enjoyment, excuse me. So thousands of white folks came by train. Well, y'all don't understand, back in them times, newspapers would advertise lynching events. This is extrajudicial justice. This is violating a man's civil and human rights, but yet it was advertised in the paper like it was a carnival or a circus coming to town. So you had white folks take special trains to certain places to watch these lynchings. They actually have picnics. They actually have cookouts. Not only cooking the black person, but cooking, barbecue. People say that's not real. It was true. Look at the pictures. You brought their families out in their Sunday best to see a black person get violated. See, lynching and violating black folks have always been America's real national pastime. All this baseball talk is nonsense. Lynching is America's national pastime. So the Sam Hose lynching incident set off Robert Charles. It also set off W.E.B. Du Bois. He was a professor teaching down in Atlanta, and the Sam Hose incident happened right outside of Atlanta. And so he was walking down the street, and he saw in a store window the body parts, what was left of Sam Hose, on sale. See, a lot of times people don't understand, lynching was like a sexual ritual, like a sex magic ritual for white people. It was like, they'll cut off the man's penis a lot of times, cut off his nose, his ears, a lot of things. It's like they'll preserve them in a jar and sell them in a place. Like, imagine if Walmart was selling black folks' body parts. Oh, well, organ harvesting. But this is after a lynching, though, where the body is cut up, mutilated, and could serve as family heirlooms and could be sold in stores. A lot of the photographs of lynchings were made into postcards. There was a exhibit not too long ago, less than 20 years ago, that showcased the original postcards made from lynching photographs. I think it was called Without Sanctuary. Y'all can look it up online. They probably got an online archive. But, this is America. America is, as, to me, American history is like a gangster rap album. So with that said, that inspired Du Bois to get into activism for black people. A great scholar. And also, that enraged Robert Charles in New Orleans. We heard about it. Also, Robert Charles was a follower of Bishop Henry Turner. Henry McNeil Turner. Look him up. He was telling black folks, he was a bishop and a politician from Georgia. And he was telling black folks that God is black, that we should be about self-defense, and that we should go back to Africa. So this is before Marcus Garvey. Really, the Back to Africa movement was started by black folks here in America, like Martin Delaney, people like that. I'm just naming names y'all can look up. This is my purpose where we all be. Drop names and dates in history. It's not for you to believe everything Brother Ron say off the bat. It's for you to do your own research. So I'm trying to help y'all to understand the importance of research instead of all trying, Mr. Ron, you got a date wrong. You got the name wrong. But I got you in the right zip code, though. I might not got you in the right house, but I put you in the right zip code. That's how y'all look at this stuff. So I'm not interested in being your leader. I'm just interested in being my best version of myself. So, getting back to Mark Essex, what inspired him to take on the police down in New Orleans was the situation of the 2 black students getting killed at Southern University in Baton Rouge by law enforcement. Basically, Southern University massacre of, I believe it was 72. Where the black folks basically was protesting, students doing protesting. We know about Kent State, but they rarely talk about what happened to those 2 students down at Southern University when they were killed by law enforcement. And also, Black Panthers getting killed in general. That set off Mark Essex, and he was a member of the Black Panther Party, I believe, in the New York chapter. But he was living in New Orleans. I say he was from Kansas. He experienced a lot of racism in the U.S. military and the U.S. Navy. I talked to a lot of retired black Navy men. They talk about how there's a special type of racism when it comes to serving in the U.S. Navy. But that's another story. But Mark Essex was a part of that. He was traumatized. He got discharged from the Navy, moved down to New Orleans, but he took on the police, shot at the police department New Year's Eve of 72, killed about 2 police officers. Then he took his assault to the Howard Johnson, the Hojo Hotel downtown New Orleans, and he killed a lot of more police officers. I believe he also killed an interracial couple from Virginia. If I'm not mistaken, he killed the hotel manager and assistant manager. And this guy was like a human machine gun. This guy, like, they had to send in a SWAT team for one black dude, right? He was killing the police so bad, he killed the supervisor of the police as well. He killed about, let me get it right. Because y'all, Ron, you got the stuff wrong. I wrote it down. He shot 10 cops, and he killed about 5 out of the 10 cops he shot. And he killed 9 people overall and wounded 20 plus. So the Marines got involved and sent a Marine helicopter with machine guns, automatic guns, all this stuff to try to get him on the rooftop of the Howard Johnson. So they got him because they had snipers, police snipers set up on other buildings around the Hojo, downtown New Orleans. And they finally got this man by himself. People talk about that Al Pacino movie, Dog Day Afternoon. Where's the movie about Mark Essex? This brother took on a SWAT team. They're just sending the Marines. They calling the Marines on one black dude, taking on the whole New Orleans Police Department by himself. They finally got him. The snipers got him. Then the helicopter got him. They said his autopsy said he had over 200 bullet wounds in his body. So they Swiss cheese the homie up. They Swiss cheese him up, but he died a martyr's death. And people say, well, he was crazy. I mean, it's an insane system. Why is it that he's crazy when you see how the system has done black folks for generations? Think about the Emmett Tills. Think about the stuff I talk about, the Robert Charles riots. Think about all this stuff, the lynching, Sam Hoes. This is what's going on with us. It's an insane system that creates insane people. It's a systemic insanity. So, yeah, that's him. So that happened in New Orleans. Then Marcus Mosiah Garvey, people don't understand his strongest support in America was the state of Louisiana. People in New Orleans, black folk in New Orleans love Marcus Garvey. You know, when he was deported from America, he had to go to the port of New Orleans to get out of here. But also, there was an incident, this guy named Reverend James Eason. That's not too much information on Reverend James Eason. He was like a follower of Marcus Garvey, kind of like a Malcolm X type of dude. You know, he was very charismatic, had the minister's background, but I think he was trying to turn state evidence to the feds or whatever on Marcus Garvey, and he was assassinated back in 1923 down in this place called the Black House in New Orleans. And people want to say that Marcus Garvey had something to do with it. Kind of like when Malcolm X got assassinated in the Audubon, and people want to blame Elijah Muhammad. But I don't know. But I'm just trying to show you the type of support that Marcus Garvey had in New Orleans to even make sure he didn't go to jail, that folks connected to the movement killed this guy named Reverend James Eason. You should look him up. But I kind of wish that the Queen and Slim thing ended in New Orleans as a standoff like that. You know, you in New Orleans, and also kind of weird. You know, you want to go to Florida like a shot of Shakur. That was the one thing Queen brought up. Let's go to Florida, get to Cuba like a shot of Shakur. Okay, but you in New Orleans, you in the Gulf of Mexico. Why not go through New Orleans to get to Cuba? If you're gonna do that. And then my thing is like the emasculation thing. I almost died. Like, you know, it's interesting because, like, you know, people got this thing about the black woman as God, but in the movie Queen was an atheist. And she made some of her best decision making as an atheist, whereas Slim is the son of a preacher, man. He was playing that Marvin Sapp music, whatever y'all like to listen to, Fred Hammond. I got no problem with the contemporary gospel music, but she basically told him to turn that shit off. While they were trying to get away, I'm trying to think, nigga, you playing all this sappy, emotional stuff. And then I think people miss that point about what they're trying to make. Like, you know, churches, black churches have not been great at retaining young people to go to the churches. There's been a drop-off in church attendance among young black people. And I think the reason is, like, you know, because, I mean, people, churches for me, I'm going to just say for me, I don't go to church that much at all. Maybe for funerals and for special events. But the thing about it is, I'm tired of all people manipulating my emotions. Everything's about the manipulation and control of people's emotions. And I think religion does that to a certain degree. I think the media, I know the media does that to a certain degree with films and news and all this stuff. Everything is all about controlling people and manipulating people's emotions versus getting folks to think for themselves. So the clearest thinking from Queen came when she was an atheist. When she was able to see the situation as it was, the reality of what they was in. You know, Slim didn't want to think. Slim thought that he could go back home and spend time with the family after he killed the police. Regardless if it was self-defense or not, he thought he could return to his regular scheduled programming. Ain't no way in hell. You killed a cop. Even though it was on tape. What did the tape do? We saw Eric Gardner get killed by police. We saw Alton Sterling get killed by police, and the police was able to walk away with pensions, with benefits, with all this other stuff. I don't care what nobody say. Who cares? So even though they got it on tape, you know, you go on the run. But it would have been cool if they had made their stand in New Orleans, kind of like, you know, think about, you know, Jackson Square, you know, Andrew Jackson, the Battle of New Orleans that was fought after the War of 1812 ended, but it was fought in New Orleans because, you know, you didn't have no social media, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have all this stuff like we got like right now, where you could get information like it's like instantaneously when it happened. You could get it right when it happened. So we didn't have that. So, but you know, Andrew Jackson, he was a well-known racist, but he had a country band. He had a band of brothers. He had pirates and free black people, even black slaves and all types of people. helping him fight the British in a battle that did not need to be fought. But because he fought that battle, one of the reasons why he became United States president, because he was a war hero. And we love our war heroes. And this is a war against black people. You know what I'm saying? But Queen and Slim could be some things that could have done differently. And also, why bring up the fact that she was a lawyer who was defending somebody on death row if she's not going to use those legal skills to defend her and Queen? I mean, her and Slim. You know, why didn't they make a scenario where they had their day in court or whatever, and then Queen defended them? You know, it made me think about Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom, when she was accused of the Panther 21 stuff. You know, when Panther 21, when hit on Black Panthers being accused of trying to blow up historic landmarks in New York City. They were set up by Eugene Roberts, who was Malcolm X's bodyguard, chief bodyguard, who was also undercover NYPD, part of that Bossy program. So they were set up, but Tupac's mom, while she was pregnant with Tupac, defended herself in court and won. But he got a sister named Queen, who's a lawyer, who's able to get her uncle off for killing her mom. And she just defended a client who was on death row, allegedly wrongly accused. Why didn't use her legal expertise in the movie? Why didn't create a scenario where Queen defends them in court and they got off? Why they couldn't make that scenario happen? Why even mention that she had a career like that at the beginning if you're not going to bring that back in the movie some type of way, right? That's kind of interesting to me. And also, see, when they start making mistakes and when she started getting like, oh boy, Slim, as far as her thinking, when she went from being that hard, I'm an atheist, I'm going to think clearly, I'm a realist, I'm pragmatic, all that, she went to start getting like him, all this slurpy, fantastic, this infatuation, like, oh, we're going to, you know, this is when they got killed. This is when they were doomed. You know what I'm saying? Also, why not just tell black history as it is, right? Tell the truth about us. Because reality, you don't have to make up nothing about black people, because black history is better than science fiction or a superhero movie. If you tell the truth about our struggle and who we are, our achievements, the things we had to overcome, you will be amazed at how inspirational it will be. Because there was a real Queen and Slim that got away. And they lived to be old people. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Robert F. Williams and sister Mabel Williams. How many of y'all familiar with Robert F. Williams and sister Mabel Williams? Brother was a veteran from World War II, Marine. He believed in self-defense, armed self-defense. He was the president of the NAACP down in Monroe, North Carolina. Man got into shootouts with the Klan and won. Got into shootouts with the Klan. Defended these two black boys who were sent to juvenile. They were treating them like adults because the white girl kissed one of them. They called it the kissing case. And it was him as a one-man movement that brought international attention to how these black boys were railroaded by the system because a white girl wanted to kiss them, did an innocent kiss, and they'll treat like criminals, like they raped the white girl, and he got them off. They got pardoned, whatever you want to call it. Look up the kissing case, Robert F. Williams. But this guy, they had to leave North Carolina because they also protected the Freedom Riders. When the Freedom Riders came through North Carolina, they were protected by armed black people. See, when they didn't have armed black people protecting them, then when they got beat up and bombed in Birmingham and Anderson, Alabama, because they had no armed black protection. Never forget, Dr. King had armed black protection. When Dr. King came to complete the march against fear from James Meredith, who was shot by a sniper on the highway, the Diggins for Defense from Bogalusa, Louisiana, veterans, black man armed, came to protect Dr. King as he walked down the highway. I talked to elders who were part of that event. They talking about how Dr. King had all this armed protection. Dr. King used to come to Memphis. He had armed bodyguards for the Memphis Police Department. He had armed black men from the Memphis Police Department. He used to protect Dr. King. And the day he got hit, he had no protection. The day that Dr. King got killed, he had no armed black protection. I remember I talked to Charles Evers, the older brother of Medgar Evers. Brother's still around. On September 11, 2022, he'll be 100 years young. And he used to tell me, Ron, when Dr. King used to come to Jackson, he used to run to my house. He said, Charles, I feel so good and comfortable. I feel so protected He got all the guns and gooms. Okay, I got that on tape. But here's the thing. Robert F. Williams and Mabel Williams, they had to leave the country. They became federal fugitives. Because what happened was, during some unrest, during a riot in their hometown, they called themselves protecting a white family from getting beat up or worse by the riots that was happening. They protected them, kept them in their home, and then they let them go. But they were accused of kidnapping the white couple when they were trying to save the white couple's life. As far as what I gather from my research, they were trying to protect the white people from getting done in by whatever the situation was during that time. So they had to leave. I think August 28th, 1961 was when the incident happened. But J. Edgar Hoover, he made them, he basically labeled them as terrorists. And they had to leave the country via Canada and Mexico and made their way to Cuba. They actually made their way to Cuba. He did a program called Radio Free Dixie. Radio Free Dixie was a radio program that Robert F. Williams did while he was in Cuba. He was in Cuba there. This is right after the revolution happened. It's like 2 years or so after the Cuban Revolution. You know, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, they were in power. You know what I'm saying? So Robert Charles was allowed to broadcast a radio program called Radio Free Dixie that reached the United States. Black folks could hear it in America, but he was talking about in Cuba. When the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, he encouraged black soldiers to lead an insurrection against the United States. He said, why they fighting Cuba, y'all should be fighting the U.S. Kind of like, go back to this, what Che Guevara said, you make many Vietnams, like this don't stop with one Vietnam War, make many Vietnams. Because what people don't understand is that America technically did not lose any battles in Vietnam. Once again, America technically did not lose any battles in Vietnam. What happened was, you cannot defeat an enemy who is willing to die. It's hard to defeat an enemy who is willing to die, who won't compromise their principles. So really like a war of attrition. It's like a war you can't win. Necessarily you don't lose, but you lose out in lives and resources. It could bankrupt your spirit, your soul, and your financials. So America said, we can't win. You can't beat nobody that's willing to put their lives on the line for what they believe in, no matter how big or small they are. And another note, the leader of the Northern Vietnamese resistance was a fan of America. He was a fan of the Declaration of Independence. He tried to meet with Woodrow Wilson at the end of World War I in Paris. Woodrow Wilson would not meet with Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh would not meet with Ho Chi Minh. But Ho Chi Minh was a fan of Marcus Garvey. He's come to America just to listen to Marcus Garvey speak. So you look at the black power influences, right? It all come around full circle. But yes, they made it to Cuba. Not only did they make it to Cuba, but he also was guests of honor in Chairman Mao's China. So you had a black power couple, the real Queen and Slim, made it to Cuba, were guests of honor in Cuba. He also ran the paper called, they started a newspaper called The Crusader in Cuba as well. And they also were guests of honor in China. So they didn't come back to the United States till like 69 because he didn't have the financials. He didn't know if he had support, but he was made president, Robert Williams, of the Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM, while he was overseas. But him and his wife eventually came back in 69. And, like I said, he was a guest of honor in China. He wanted to come back home, but he wanted to make sure that he had enough resources to fight the charges that they ran away from back in 61. So eventually they did beat the case. They had William Kunstler represent them in court in Monroe back in 1975, and the government dropped the charges. And Robert Charles and his wife lived in Michigan. He lived to be an old man. He died of, I think, leukemia or some form of cancer back on October 15th, 1996. The person who did his eulogy was none other than Rosa Parks, who was recently honored with a statue in Montgomery on the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycotts, right? The start of the Montgomery bus boycotts. And she was a big fan of Robert F. Williams. Her grandfather, I believe, was a big fan of Marcus Garvey. So she believed in black resistance. This Rosa Parks being peaceful. She believed in black folks having armed resistance, okay? We got to reclaim our heroes in our narrative. But he died at the age of 71. His wife lived lived 18 more years, and she died on April 19th, 2014. But, why we don't know about Robert Charles and Mabel Williams? Why they don't talk about them? Because they act like Robert Charles said it best. He said, the reason why, I'm paraphrasing him now, and check out his books, Negroes with Guns, because that inspired Huey P. Newton of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense to really do what they did out in Oakland and beyond. But Negroes with Guns, check out Robert Charles' book. But he said the reason why they don't really talk about him was because he lived to be an old man. Think about Malcolm Martin. They both died at 39. Medgar died at 37. So many of Fred Hampton, whose assassination anniversary coming up December 4th, he died at 21. So many of our freedom-fighting men died before they could be men in their prime. They were not killed in their prime. They were killed right on the cusp of their prime. And you look at Fred Hampton, he was really a baby. 21 years old, killed by the federal government, spied upon by the federal government since he was 14. So why not make a biopic about Robert F. Williams and Mabel Williams instead of making up this nonsense with Queen and Slim? Give black folks some hope. Black folks say, I didn't know that we fought and won. We won some things. Yeah, we won some things. We won some things. Never forget, the Civil War was not won by the Union until black soldiers were enlisted. Until black folks started fighting for their freedom, the Civil War was going the way of the Confederates. And some may argue that the Confederates actually won because the losers got to write their version of the history. With the statues and all this other stuff. With the movies, Birth of a Nation. So, yeah. Shada Shakur, man, wow. But she can't even come back. We don't even know if she's really alive. I think she's dead, to be honest with you. That's just me. But she can't even come back to America. But yet Robert F. Williams and Mabel Williams came back to America and died in America and beat the system. So why not that story be told? Now, let me talk about some other things I got written down. All right, no, the director has a background in music video direction and whatnot. I thought overall it was shot well. Sometimes the leads got lost in saturation. In some scenes you could hardly see them. And it reminded me of what the Derville Martin character played by Wesley Snipes said in Dolomite. Black folk, we need to help people know how to shoot us. And that's so true. We gotta help people to know how to shoot the beauty, the different ranges of beauty of color that is black folk. Black folks, we are a beautiful people. You should read sometime what Mark Twain said about the diversity of black color, how it was so beautiful versus white people's skin color. Mark Twain said something. You can look up that quote. I'm not going to give the exact quote because I don't got it written down, but you can find it online somewhere about Mark Twain. His thoughts about looking at a sea of black people and how beautiful black is. That Mark Twain who wrote Huckleberry Finn, yeah, that one. Yeah, but also the casting call, right? It's a lot of controversy. A lot of it, we so emotional. It's a movie. It's their movie. It's their money. They can tell whatever story they want to tell, right? Why are we so emotionally invested? Oh, they won't cast Idris Elba as James Bond, and why they don't cast no black people for Egyptian films and make our own movies like I'm doing right now. I'm shooting on my camera right now, on my phone camera, this segment. We got the resources. You might not be able to make a Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or a Martin Scorsese movie with The Irishman. I believe Netflix spent $200 million on making The Irishman. You don't need all that money. You just need to be able to tell a story. I think people underestimate the power of just being able to tell stories. Regardless if you got a budget, a high-priced budget, just tell a story. Like I'm telling y'all, I'm dropping information for you all in my way. So we should get lost in the sauce on that. But I think I covered everything. I had to write down certain points. I think I said everything I want to say about this segment overall. But yeah, I think that they missed some things. Like I wish they would have used her lawyer skills in the courtroom to defend their honor. And also I want to say this, speaking about Black History is a Weapon. I would encourage you all to read a book called Force and Freedom. Force and Freedom by Sister Kelly Carter Jackson. This is her first book. This sister, she's a college professor up in Boston. But I saw her talk right after I saw the Harriet movie at the National Civil Rights Museum. And she gave a powerful talk because, you know, in the Harriet movie, one of the things that people complained about was how black men were portrayed, or black male, black woman, black male, black female relationships were portrayed in the film. In actuality, black men and black women were ride or die with each other, man. Like, you know, you think about black abolitionists, you thinking about they singing something like, they didn't have "We Shall Overcome" back then, but they wasn't singing no Kumbaya. These folks were gangster, man. They had Molotov cocktails, there was shootouts. You had black people, like it was a black dude that slapped the mess out of this slave catcher that came to his house looking for some slaves. You had a slave kill a slave catcher, then ask for forgiveness from the crowd, said, "And I'm still a good Christian." Yeah, you're a good Christian. So you got to look at these counts. This is real history that talk about the black resistance, the black abolitionists. Because, you know, black folks were the leaders of the Underground Railroad. And that was shown in the movie Harriet. But they didn't show how gangster black folks were back in those times. These black folks were lawyers. I don't care. They were fighting for their people. They would ride or die for their people. But they don't talk about these ancestors. These are the righteous ancestors that don't get talked about. It's like they try to miscast Harriet Tubman. People talking about, well, she freed 70 slaves. Look, if she went on one raid, she led black men into battle on one raid down in South Carolina that freed 750 people. That alone, that's gangster. Then she knew she needed a black man. She loved black men. Why she get married twice if she didn't love black men? Why she went back down south to free her brothers, her father, and her first husband if she didn't love black men? And also, she was kind of like a cougar. Like I said, her second husband was 22 years younger than her. And she outlived him. He died at 44. She died at 91. So you do the math. So what I'm saying is, research the real history of our people is available. Movies like Queen and Slim and Harriet and any other thing, don't let that be the final say about black love, about black power, about black resilience, about black resistance. Don't let that be the final say. And I'm not even knocking the movie. The movie is a watchable product. But I am being critical because there are stories that are real that could be told about our people that we want. One more story, I'm out of here. Eddie Knoll. Research Eddie Knoll if you can. I don't know, there's a lot of information. But there's a book called The Time of Eddie Knoll. And it was funny because I found this book because I was going through my sister's library collection. She brought this book in the book bin. Like, it was on sale. I guess it was a bookstore going out of business. And she brought this book. And I always tell people, you don't choose books. Books choose you. So I saw this book that's staring at me. I said, I'm going to pick it up. And I was fascinated because, people talk about Django Unchained. And by the way, Django Unchained is based on a real character, one of John Brown's black raiders at Harper's Ferry named Dangerfield Newby. Baba Dick told y'all this back in that clip we did that went viral, giving his critical assessment of Django and calling out Spike Lee. He talked about Dangerfield Newby. And if you look at the picture of a photo of Dangerfield Newby, Jamie Foxx's character Django favors Dangerfield Newby. He was found at Harper's Ferry, one of the first people to get killed at Harper's Ferry. They found a letter from his wife who's telling him to come rescue her because she's about to be sold again. So he was on his way to rescue his wife. Don't tell me about black men don't love black women. But Eddie Knoll. Eddie Knoll's interesting. This is like The Time of Eddie Knoll's the book. But I interviewed the author, A.L.L, who was a white guy from Mississippi who was a teenager when this stuff happened. This happened in Mississippi back in January of 1954, about 18 months before the Emmett Till travesty, right? That happened in Mississippi. But Eddie Knoll was a high yellow, short World War II sharpshooter, right? Dude was a sharpshooter. And his wife was working at a juke joint owned by a white man down in Mississippi. Everybody know that the white man was screwing his wife. One night he went to get his wife from the juke joint. The white man bullied him, embarrassed him, tried to punk him out. Eddie Knoll came back with his gun and shot the white man, killed a sheriff deputy. This all happened the first weekend of the new year of 1954. So he killed a sheriff deputy. He killed the white man who owned the juke joint who was screwing his wife. And maybe he killed one more white person. But it led to one of the largest manhunts in the state of Mississippi's history. He had these white guys looking for this little short, high yellow dude in the ice storm. You had an ice storm going on at the time of January of 54. So he was being hired out by not only black families, but also white families who knew the story about why he did what he did, who were sympathetic to his cause. So you had black families and white families hide him out, give him food. He finally turned himself in to the authorities through a white friend of his family. So they put him in a mental institution. They're about to perform a lobotomy. That's when they scramble your brain. They're about to put him on trial. Probably gonna get the death chair. Be put in old Sparky. But what happened was he never went to trial. He never got the lobotomy. And he actually died of old age back in 94, a free man in Indiana. What happened? The black dude in 1950s Mississippi killed these white people, especially a sheriff's deputy, and he gets away with it? What happened was that Eddie Knoll was named after one of his white ancestors. This guy named Edmund Knoll, who was one of the governors of Mississippi. It was the white part of his family that saved and spared his life. They stopped him from getting the lobotomy, I think some electroshock therapy treatments as well as ever going to trial for killing all the white dudes. Because what people don't know, Eddie Knoll acted in self-defense because he even said that he could have killed more white people because he was hiding. I'm saying he was a veteran and a sharpshooter. He was hiding in the forest and stuff in the fields. He could see all the white dudes looking for him. And he didn't kill him. He could have massacred a whole bunch of white people. And, the way he did it was he just had a regular rifle, but because he had such a quick reaction time, he's like a human submachine gun. It's kind of like if Aaron Rodgers, he's like an Aaron Rodgers. If he played football, he had a quick release like a Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. So I think that would even made him more sympathetic to the eyes of his white relatives that, hey, he shot these people. He killed the folks that was trying to bother him. This dude was disrespecting his wife. I mean, disrespecting him. Now, his wife was disrespecting him too, but this dude was disrespecting him by sleeping with his wife, and everybody laughing. The whole town laughing at me type of Teddy Pendergrass song. The whole town laughing at me. Like that. So everybody knew what was going on, so they were sympathetic towards Eddie Knoll. But look at the book, The Time of Eddie Knoll, written by Ali Povar. Why not make that a movie? See, the things I'm talking about, the Robert Williams and Mabel Williams and Eddie Knoll, black folks beat the system. They won. They got away with it. Lived to be old people. Black love can't survive. So Queen of Slim was traumatic to watch. It was like black trauma porn. But it is what it is. And like I said, see it once, have your own opinion. If you like the words from Brother Herb, please spread the word. Please subscribe to the channel, We All Be TV. If you like to hear more information, please support, PayPal, Google Pay, r2c2h2@gmail.com. You can cash app your support, r2c2h2. That's, $ r2c2h2. And, tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a 501c3. If you have benefited from this information, I'm gonna toot my own horn. I play cornet and trumpet, but I put a lot of y'all on to a lot of information to a lot of people. A lot of y'all was not checking for Dick Gregory. Before that Django review I did with Dick, a lot of y'all didn't know who he was. And for the last 4 years of his life, he was able to enjoy a renaissance. People really getting to know Dick Gregory and his powerful work. I turn y'all on to Judge Joe Brown. Y'all wasn't checking for Judge Joe Brown like that. I've been interviewing Judge Joe Brown since 2014. Now everybody interviews Judge Joe Brown. Dr. Rennie Short, a lot of things, investigative journalism. I do a lot of work. And people talk about free. This ain't free. I pay a cost for doing this. I pay a cost. I don't want to hear, but what is this free, bro? No, because why don't some of y'all do the research? Like even with this review, out of love of y'all, I took the time to do my research and bring y'all on some history to put stuff in context. So this is a passion, but at the same time, like y'all got to pay bills too, and it costs. And I'm at a crossroads right now about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. And because you got to take care of yourself. Because self-care is the best care. best health care, excuse me. So what they say, I love you all. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. Peace. Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.
Thank you.